My name is Betty. At Furies, I bake because it brings joy to my family. At 39, I happily baked almost every day, inadvertently causing my husband Michael to gain weight. Sorry, Michael. Today, I want to share a heart-wrenching experience from 15 years ago. Back then, at 24, I had just married my husband Thomas, 2 years my senior, who I met after graduating from community college. When we married, I had one condition for Thomas. If you want children, please don't choose me, turn back. I said. At 19, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. There's remission, but no cure. It's not a gynecological issue, but my medications included steroids and immunosuppressants. Some of these could harm a fetus, so pregnancy was off limits. The disease affected my whole body, damaging organs like my kidneys, leading to repeated hospitalizations. Pregnancy could worsen my condition due to hormonal changes. I thought children are impossible. It wasn't just my assumption. My doctors had advised, it's not entirely impossible, but considering your current metrics, it's better to plan for a child later. Later at 24. For a woman, the suitable age for pregnancy keeps passing by. Even if my disease stabilized, the physical strength I lost coupled with aging would make childbirth difficult. If childbirth weakened me, my disease could spiral out of control. What about childcare then? It seemed like a dead end. So at 19, I resigned myself to being unable to have children, something that was profoundly saddening. I even thought marriage was out of the question. It's harsh, but many people wouldn't want a woman who can't bear children. People dream of having children, then grandchildren. Therefore, I needed Thomas to accept my inability to have children.
I'm marrying the future child, at first tree, all expert any first. I love you, Betty. I social. And when you see me, not just the issue of childbearing. When you found you Jerry then. Okay, I'm extremely tidy, even obsessive about the fridge layout, you found? My friends say I sweat the small stuff, so I might bother you, Betty. Isn't marriage about accepting and compensating for each other's flaws? If you see your inability to have children as a flaw, let's turn it into a strength and embrace our life together as a couple.
His unexpected words, the ones I longed for yet given up on, brought me to tears. With a tear-streaked face, I said, "Thank you, I look forward to our life together."
But Thomas hugged me.
Thomas's self-proclaimed flaw, mentioned during his proposal. Honestly, having never lived together, I thought, is he that particular? Maybe he's just comforting me. But after marriage, I saw his true nature. He was indeed a neat freak, bothered even if the remote was misplaced. Yet, he was also a perfectionist. Realizing he couldn't make a perfect omelet, Thomas spent 2 weeks practicing in the kitchen, stealing it from. But whether it's a misplaced remote or a less than perfect omelet, we always manage lighthearted exchanges like, "Sorry," or "I'll be more careful." With him, I believe in a wonderful future, even if it's just the two of us. I believed that way and had no doubts. Half a year into our marriage, as I was getting used to being a housewife, we visited my in-laws for Thanksgiving for the first time. When mother-in-law Patricia didn't answer the doorbell, Thomas said, "No problem, I have the spare key," and opened the door. We could hear Patricia's laughter from inside.
It seems to be on the phone.
Thomas and I communicated with a glance and quietly moved forward.
But really, I'm so jealous. We won't be seeing any grandchildren. Oh, didn't I tell you, Thomas's wife? She's infertile. Found out after they got married. Such a disappointment.
I was stunned. Patricia was laughing about me. I couldn't see Thomas's face, too scared to look. But he walked in noisily and burst out, "Enough, Mom." Just as Patricia's laughter stopped.
Oh, you're already here. And Betty, too?
Mom, what was that about? Explain everything. If I'm fine with it, why can't you be?
Their argument was palpable even in the hallway. I knew such remarks might come, but Thomas understood me. "It's okay, I'll smile." I acted as if nothing happened.
Oh, Jabachin. It's a hot day, isn't it, Patricia? How you been?
Thomas and Patricia were at a loss, and so was I. But I had to maintain composure. I forced a smile. A strong heart behind a smiling face. That was my vow to get through this visit. Months later, at dinner, Thomas mentioned, "Remember Daniel, Betty's colleague?"
It hasn't been that long. I feel nostalgic already. How are you doing? It's getting married soon, a shotgun wedding. Intra-brown wedding.
Oh, really? And keep it? It's not. That's great. Oh, British gosh for sports searching. Prove it. Daniel, the party animal, settling down, bring Yorkshire.
I laughed, trying to make light of it. Thomas's face was somber though.
I wonder what it'd be like if we had kids.
Right? What's kind of? But
Caught off guard, I braced myself. Yes, I too wonder, what would they look like? What would they like? It's natural for couples to think about it. As for this, it can't be helped. But it's not an easy topic.
Would they have looked like me or like you? This time is tried to lighten the mood.
If they're like you, they'd be a bit clumsy, I joked. I was overthinking it. I didn't want our infertility to be a sore subject. We should be able to talk about it more casually. That's what I thought. But as Daniel's child grew, our dinner conversations increasingly revolved around them. At first, it was just casual talk about morning sickness or naming the baby. But after Thomas held the baby, things changed.
Isn't that very, you know, looks just like bloody Boston, personally. I'm an only child, so I never realized our family name might end with me. I'd love to play games with my own kid. With a person choosing kids' clothes would be more fun with a child. I've always admired large festivals. I've achieved everything. Education, career, and your child. Maybe it's really impossible? What do you think? It feels like the only thing missing from my life. Maybe my juniors have kids. I'm the only one without parenting experience.
I couldn't believe my ears. Honestly, I didn't know how to respond. Despite my confusion, Thomas kept saying how great it would be to have kids, and my heart grew tired day by day. Then it happened. You know, I really want a child of my own. Someone like me. I envy normal families.
In a normal family, kids are just there, looking after their parents in old age, continuing the legacy for generations. But with Betty, we might never have even one child. Also, what will our future be like? Also, we speed away honest. This maybe some people will start looking at us coldly, wondering why we don't have kids even after being married for so long. They ask, but I can't bear being asked that by my boss and others. I should be part of these conversations. Ever since I started thinking about it, living with Betty has become a burden filled with anxiety. Every day has been hell. I can't stand the thought of spending the future with Betty. I am at check.
I had sensed Thomas's desire for children. But hadn't he married me understanding my situation? I made it clear that I couldn't have children, but he was thinking we were not a normal family. Actually, Mom's been telling me, you're still young. Remarry someone younger. A man can have children. Think about your relationship.
I started feeling guilty about not giving my parents grandchildren.
It dawned on me how shallow Thomas was, drowning in superficial love. This was no small issue for me. I believed in his proposal. He hadn't thought about the future, just living in the moment, content with an infertile wife then. I should have known not to trust anyone but myself. When I fell ill, I found it hard to live with myself. Thomas was a stranger. I was naive to think he could empathize enough.
hey, du bist eine Streischen. Nenny, that's Deborah. I can't keep hearing this and don't want to be with you. Show. It's divorce.
Seriously, I bet wonders I is an infertility get alimony in a divorce?
His casual response, like canceling a date, was a shock. I hadn't hidden my infertility. There was no compensation. But to think we were just parting with bitterness over money. Ridiculous. Everything was ridiculous. The great love I thought we had ended with a simple signature on a paper. As a housewife, I suddenly had to face the world with no plan. I wanted to cry every day, often breaking down in tears when I drank. But I told myself, I can't wallow forever, and found a job a year after the divorce. Though still occasionally hurt, I started to look forward. 2 years later, it might seem unbelievable, but I remarried. I often turned to my parents after the divorce, and that's when I reconnected with my childhood friend Michael. It just happened. Michael had left our hometown for high school basketball. So we lost touch. We didn't contact each other much, considering each other's partners. So I didn't know much about what Michael had been up to since he graduated from middle school. So I was surprised to learn about his life. From Sichuri, right after starting work, Michael collapsed from overwork and a severe... The high fever left him unable to have children. Now, he worked at a local company in a balanced environment. Despite the sensitivity of the topic, he revealed his condition to me when I drunkenly shared my divorce reason.
Don't worry, I'm the same.
He said, lifting my spirits. In a way, we were two people who shared the same pain meeting for the first time.
That's the same for me.
How encouraging those words were. Having been close since childhood, even though I thought I'd never trust men again, I felt like I could open my heart to Michael. With Michael, I began to live peaceful days, thinking my life was finally starting. But just when I thought so, 4 years after my divorce, during the year-end homecoming, Thomas unexpectedly showed up at my parents' house in San Diego. There was no monitor on the doorbell at the house. Thinking it was the courier I was expecting that day, I carelessly opened the door, saying yes. I admit, my crisis management was lacking. I never wanted to see Thomas's face again, but there he was, right in front of me, turning pale.
Very best Mr.
He called as if we were still close. I reflexively tried to close the door, but Thomas wouldn't let me.
We need to talk. Sir.
He insisted, pulling at the door.
Oh, God, watch there, see Keshers. What's there to talk about now? We're divorced, there's nothing left to say.
I'm sorry.
His sudden apology made me pause. Honestly, I had always wanted an apology. Left with a lasting hurt, part of me thought maybe his apology would provide some solace.
Elle passed away, and I realized how valuable Betty was. I'm alone now. Living in solitude is so hard. Please, can we start over?
At that moment, I felt a cold wave wash over me. So it's all for himself. Typical, considering he first thought about alimony during our divorce. That's just who he is. Seeing his forgettable face again, my anger boiled up. Why should I feel miserable all the time for no fault of my own? There's nothing wrong with that.
It isn't.
I was about to deliver a verbal blow when...
Is this the guy? The poor man who tossed around a good woman like Betty for his own selfishness, and now realizes her worth. Speak up, will you?
Behind me sneering at Thomas was my current husband, Michael. Maybe because of his fiery nature, he had always said, I want to give a piece of my mind to Betty's ex-husband.
His lips curled with a certain satisfaction. Oh, wait. It's sure.
I found myself worrying not about Michael, but about what might become of Thomas.
What's this? You riding me company, but you was Christians groveling to your ex-wife for 4 years, apologizing only after Patricia's gone, thinking of making her your housekeeper? Don't joke, that's not even an apology.
Michael's voice was deep and intimidating, frightening even to me, his closest family member.
Do you even realize the pain Betty went through while you carelessly lived off your parents? Your actions now insult the 4 years Betty spent fighting her battles alone and in society. If you really loved her, you couldn't do this. You know Betty, you herself!
Michael kept attacking Thomas, who grew more teary-eyed, insisting, I didn't mean it like that.
I'm in trouble if someone licks me.
We are not fooled by such cheap tears.
Thinking crying will make you look pitiful? But did Betty cry in front of you? She faced you with pain so deep she couldn't even cry. Sister, do you understand that feeling? I've cherished my wife just because we're married. Betty's been my dear childhood friend. You who trampled her feelings in the worst way are unforgivable.
Michael spoke coldly, and Thomas, now deeply apologetic, seemed almost on the brink of being kicked.
What you did was the worst, betraying even a bit of trust someone had in humanity. Do you think a deep apology can redeem what you did to Betty?
Are you gonna fight that? What are you gonna say? You're not outsider, stand of this.
Thomas, enraged at Michael's relentless accusations, burst out, well, if I just cut this out, I would have been furious. But considering what had happened up until now, I just reacted with unreasonable anger.
But to Thomas, what you did to me was so cheap and light that you thought it was just that, right?
I asked, looking straight at Thomas.
What you're talking about? But that is nitpicking. I've been thinking to get you ever since we separated.
Then why now after 4 years? Why not the day after the divorce? Or 6 months? Or a year later? Are you the childishly incapable of remorse?
Which because I was busy.
Thomas started stuttering, unable to smoothly respond to my words.
Oh, if you're busy, apologies, gratitude, kindness, I'll get pushback. If eating, using the toilet, sleeping, taking a bath. I rank below all these to you.
Thomas fell silent, unable to reply.
Which is that trivial to you? You're here now because you can't manage on your own, right? Best when we were married, I liked doing housework so you never had to lift a finger.
I smirked sarcastically, and Thomas looked away.
I top pictures for the wet.
Michael spat out. Michael loves household chores. It's clear how different he is from Thomas, a wonderful husband.
Oh, I was just a housekeeper to you. And now Thomas has nothing to say. Where's Topers you are to others, sir?
Thomas remained silent.
I shall have you to think I come back to someone who understands nothing about people, who can't do anything. Wow, you came to get me. I'm happy. I'm Cadbury. Did you expect me to say that? I'm gonna go back to you, fool.
I may have been harsh, but I loved
Smack was the
Pruppies, and Thomas, realizing he was caught, shouted,
okay, especially for words, which
but had no rebuttal.
As when we divorced, I thought, does he really think a divorced man can easily remarry a young woman? Fouls, it's Carlton, Mrs. Urgent. Look at your thinning hair before starting over.
It was an outburst of years of resentment, but I was glad to have spoken my mind.
yes, you don't have to go that far. I've hurt you. Besides that, who's this guy? Are you being brainwashed? Maybe because I hurt you? I'm sorry. I'll always support you come back.
Thomas, not knowing I remarried, misinterpreted the situation.
That's the opposite. Away from you, I can discern someone who truly cares for me. I broke free from a cheap love. Even with money or pressure, I'd never go back to you. Don't flatter yourself. My current life is far better than our hellish marriage. Ah, sloppy setters, sure individuation.
It's bad luck, man. Bruised people.
My outburst and Michael's emotionless, mocking just bad luck. Man left Thomas dejected. Staring at the ground, Thomas muttered,
Why did you change so much?
I'm in chains. Okay. I just was someone I can trust, who trusts me. I wanted a happy marriage with you, but you ruined it. Now I live for myself in my own way. Blame Yona, you guessed it. We...
After hearing my words, Michael said,
Please leave Neve Nabors, Thomas, just to stand up.
Thomas's outburst, I retorted.
Fight, it's awesome. Even if I could have children, I would never have yours. I thought of your descendants, and everyone involved suffering is just sad. Being selfish like you and carrying your genes would be a disgrace, and I doubt you could raise a child properly. But realize that having a child with you would be a living hell.
Thomas, sobbing, was almost dragged out of the house by Michael. He continued to whimper annoyingly outside, but Michael and I paid no attention and went back inside, not bothering with Thomas anymore. Later, Thomas somehow found me through my social media. He wasn't remarried, still single and lonely in a 60-line message of which I only read the first 5 lines before deleting it. Deeper viewer scrolling was too bothersome. It's a waste of calories. Even clicking on a computer uses 1.4 calories per click. I've neither the time nor calories to spare on such a man. From what I glimpsed at the end, it seemed he tried to find a young lover, but got repeatedly rejected. Pictures with his thinning hair. I smirked to myself. And me, surprisingly, I got pregnant. We'll never have a big family, but the most precious being in the world was born to us. This happened because marrying Michael and leading a stress-free life eased my illness, bringing me into remission much sooner than expected. I'm advised to be careful in my daily life to avoid a relapse, but so far, there have been no signs and my condition is stable. After extensive research, we found that Michael could father a child through stimulation therapy. It was expensive and part of me wondered, is it worth it? After all, whether I could give birth to a healthy child was uncertain. But that's true for healthy people too. The hope that we might be able to have a child excited us both. We talked it over many times. Can we really have a child? Is it okay to feel this way? Is it just a desire? Are we prepared to go through the hardship to have a child? So with the thought, if there's a child meant for us, we started trying. And miraculously, a very healthy boy was born just 6 months ago. The day we first held him is something neither Michael nor I will ever forget. The warmth in our arms seemed to melt away all the past events and resentments in our hearts. This child is our one and only precious being, born after countless moments of giving up and finally being blessed. Every cry for hunger, every fuss over a diaper, all of it is endearing. I vow to become a mother who can one day laugh and tell these stories to my child. As first-time parents, Michael and I are overwhelmed but happily so. We are thoroughly enjoying our life as a family of 3 right now.